stand and salute the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to our meeting. The next thing on the agenda is a public hearing for the affordable housing TIF. And our TIF ladies.
TIF lady. She has a new nickname.
A new nickname.
Wow.
Thank you. So I guess, the select board chair would open the public hearing for that. That's what we just did. It is 6 o'clock. And typically what happens, would be that, the developer, Joe Kroll, is here, to give a brief description of the project. As, you likely recall, we were here in January, to outline this project and request, a letter from the select board indicating that this project was part of was going through the process of requesting a TIF from the town, keeping in mind that TIF can't be approved until the voters vote next on the June 10th election. So this is the public hearing. It gives people the opportunity to speak for, in favor of, or in opposition to the TIF. And so we'll start with Joe just briefly outlining the project again for people.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Kroll with A&O Properties. We've started the Hillcrest subdivision. As you guys have probably noticed, there have been a lot of construction going on over there. A little bit of background, we bought the existing 9-lot subdivision with an approved engineered road from 97. And what we've done in the meantime, we've gone back and we've expanded it to a 16-lot subdivision, brought all of the stormwater runoff and everything up to today's standards rather than 1997 standards. What we also did is in those 16 house lots is we applied for Maine State Housing Affordable Housing Program. What we're gonna do is we're gonna put 9 affordable houses within there, and that's based on the median county average for income. We were recently approved for that, so our application is in process with them to go through with the financing and stuff like that. What that allows us to do, as I said, is put 9 out of the 16 homes within there more at a, we'll call a main market value. As we all know, things have gotten a little bit crazy on the housing market side. And what this does is with the help of Maine State Housing, we're able to provide houses for homes for people that are first starting, or people that just have a fixed income as retired people or whatever. So there's still 3-bedroom, 2-bath houses. That way families can grow into them. That's one of the things obviously Monmouth needs, is to have families come in here. Out of the other 7 remaining market lots we have, we're under contract on 2 of them. One of them is going to be a family coming in with 4 kids to bring into the school district. The other one is a retired couple. And then we're almost finished with our 3rd house. So with the Maine State Housing and everything, we're able to start building these houses and go through. And the reason we're requesting the TIF is because when we're done, we want to do this as best as we can possibly. So that way, when we're done, it just is another part of the community. That's the one thing we want to do, and why we're doing half of it as affordable housing, is we want to build a community and not just build a neighborhood and maximize dollars. And what the TIF will allow us to do is do the nice finishes, hopefully pave the road and those types of things, and then maybe get it taken over by the town. But this will allow us, it's obviously a big infrastructure to put in the city sewer, city water, which we're providing in that neighborhood. This will allow us to do those nice finishes with the road and make everything just a part of the community like it always should be and like it's always been here.
Thank you. Other questions? Yes, you.
Will the fire suppression water be made available? Is there thought to that, or as a fireman, I'm just curious about that.
There's gonna be a fire hydrant on the corner within the subdivision, and there's gonna be a clean out on the end. If water were to ever continue up Academy, then it'll be able to be connected for a fire hydrant at the end of it. Or Sandy Drive is what it's called, onto Academy.
presume you've met with the fire chief and had that conversation.
Yes, Paul Roop's done that conversation, but I talked to him previously.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then Joel with the water district.
That's fine.
Yep. And no other comments, you can.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing for the affordable housing TIF.
I'll second that.
So there's a motion by Kent, second by Chris to close the public hearing on the affordable housing TIF. All those in favor? Thank you so much. And now we have a public hearing on the Main Street Omnibus TIF with our TIF lady.
Tiffany. Do we need a motion to open the public hearing or? Matter?
I think the chair can declare it open.
Okay, there we go.
Just for the record, it is 6:06. As is required by statute, whenever you create a new TIF district or amend a TIF district, you are required to have a public hearing and then approval at the municipal level. And in this case, the reason that we're making changes to the Main Street Omnibus TIF district is because the property that Joe is using to create the affordable housing TIF district is right now part of the Main Street TIF district. So we're literally cutting out this property because there are different rules and allowances for TIF funds in the affordable housing TIF district. So we are simply amending the Main Street TIF to move this property out and create its own TIF district. And then while we're at it, we are also changing the allowable expenditures in the Main Street Omnibus TIF. We found that the streetscape, as everyone may recall, the TIF revenues that the town collects can be used for certain projects, and the voters approve an up to amount that each category is allowed to spend. And for one of those categories, streetscapes specifically, we are doing work downtown or in the middle of town with the sidewalks, and we could use a little more funding in those. So we're balancing out some of those allowable expenses so that we can fulfill that budget requirement with the Main Street Omnibus TIF. So that's the changes to that TIF district. So if anyone has any public comments for or against or questions, I'd be happy to answer
No question.
all good stuff.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing for the Main Street Omnibus TIF.
I'll second that.
And so there's a motion by Kent, second by Chris to close the public hearing on the Main Street Omnibus TIF. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Reagan.
So we're done. Yes.
Enjoy what's left of the sun.
Thank you.
Sometimes.
Next is to consider amending the deadline for submitting materials to the planning board under section 6221 of the Comprehensive Development Ordinance.
And Isabella was here tonight, our planner, and she's gonna go through what they're looking for.
Yeah, so for folks that I haven't met yet, I'm Isabel Exley. I'm the town's contracted planner. So I provide professional staffing assistance to the planning board. Really, I'm here this evening because our comprehensive development ordinance requires that the select board set the deadlines for when things need to be submitted. We've been working on process improvements as a group. We've now talked about them at the last 2 planning board meetings. After, I spent some time getting up to speed on what they do. The issue that we sort of realized, and after talking with Bill Monagle, who's the executive director of our watershed district, and who, if you're unaware, provides significant review and insight into our development review process. Both he and I struggle with the current 10-day turnaround, which is really only a week of working days when things are submitted to the planning board. This is really about providing great customer service to applicants, but also being transparent and being able to post things in advance for the public as well. So in advance of planning board meetings. We are requesting that we change the deadline for subdivisions specifically, which are really the more complicated and typically require outside state permitting applications for up to 30 days. This matches the timing that's also in the state subdivision statute. We are currently proposing to keep the turnaround time for initial completeness review for non-residential and multifamily applications to its current 10 days. Those ones tend to be, one building and much smaller. That's really the gist of it. I've provided some flow charts in your packet. Those are really more illustrative of what our current process is, but I did include that change in there just so you know how that flows.
So can I ask a few questions? In the event of someone applying to the planning board for a subdivision, minor subdivision or major subdivision?
So we actually don't necessarily provide a distinction in terms of review process. We only provide a distinction from major versus minor in terms of what's actually required to be submitted.
So would this deadline change, this window change, affect both?
All subdivisions,
Okay.
yes. Yep.
So when someone were to apply for both minor and major subdivisions, instead of requiring a response within 10 days from the watershed district, the required response, there would be a required response within 30 days instead. So someone would need, someone proposing to do development would potentially have to wait an extra 20 business days in order.
No, 20 days.
20 calendar
Yeah.
days. Okay, so they would have to wait an additional 20 calendar days before the ordinance would require the town to respond.
Correct, yes. And I just want to be clear that it is mainly Bill and myself that are providing review comments on applications, but we do also ask police chief, fire chief, public works director, code enforcement officer, all of our staff to also provide comments within that time period. So as you can imagine, that one working week or 10 business or 10 calendar day turnaround is pretty fast for all involved.
To coordinate all that.
Yeah.
How many applications would this affect?
So since I will just say, since I've come on, subdivisions have tended to be heavy, but I am told that that was not the case before I was ever here. I don't know why it coincided with me. I am told that before, in the last 10 years before that, they had two subdivision applications and they were amendments. So those ones we could probably conceivably provide a faster turnaround on. We have now had 3 subdivision applications just in the last about 9 months that I've been on board.
Okay, and those are major subdivisions?
Yes, technically, yeah,
Okay, and how many minor subdivisions?
none.
0.
Is it also fair to say, Isabel, that before you were here, the process was a lot slower? They had one meeting that was like a site visit, then they had a completeness meeting. So the chances of you getting one of these through in 30 days was not happening anyway under the process that had been before you were here.
Right.
It was much more meeting intensive, like several meetings, just to get to the point of what Isabel's doing before they even meet once.
And so what's the turnaround time now?
So I will say for that that Academy Road and Main Street subdivision, that was one completeness meeting and one public hearing and decision meeting. That one was a little bit faster than what the planning board is trending. We had another Main Street subdivision that was more like 3 to 4 meetings. Again, that was a lot because of turnaround time with comments. So to me, this is really more of a customer service change so that we can provide comments upfront rather than waiting until the first planning board meeting that they see it and then providing comments, which is sort of the current process.
Would it be that big a?
There's no pond.
Would it be? Yeah.
That's it.
It's a sign, literally. Would it be? I mean, I understand the onerousness of a super complicated multi-site, like, you know, someone wants to build dozens of houses type of proposal, and there's a lot of moving parts. A minor subdivision is a lot more straightforward. Usually it's a single lot being divided into two, no?
What you're referring to is more of a subdivision amendment,
Yeah.
rather than a minor. There's a couple of distinctions in our ordinance, so I just
Okay.
want to be clear about that.
Yeah.
So what you're suggesting with an amendment, you know, I certainly think that we could be turning things around far faster than this 30-day turnaround.
Right.
For initial staff completeness comments. The purpose of this change is to match state statute of up to 30 days. And so of course, if I can provide things faster, I
Right.
am always aiming to do so.
Right.
But for ease of use and ease of reading the ordinance, rather than separating it into our 3 or 4 different categories of subdivisions, outlining it this way on the flow chart is sort of what we aimed to do instead.
But also, this is pretty typical for other communities as well, having 30 days. It's not like other communities do it in 5 days, 5 business days, or, you know, even 10 business days. We're pretty much going to what the majority of other communities do.
That's
We're not outside the norm. We're
Right.
making it more standard and giving people the time they need to do the research and get the information collected and together for the permits.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so like I said, this matches wording in state statute. So, and I will say that communities that have this professional planning staff are usually looking at more of that 30-day turnaround time for all varieties of subdivisions. Yeah.
So the applicant can push this along by submitting their materials earlier. And then the 30 days doesn't have to run, correct?
So the goal here is so that I can do my best in terms of customer service. We want to be able to provide something to applicants that says, if you get something into me 30 days in advance, that is more than enough time really for us to review your application, provide comments, and hopefully for you or your consultant to respond to those comments before this ever gets to the planning board. So that when we are presenting something to the planning board, the plan that is being presented is sort of the plan that's going to be moving forward. There's not major revisions required because of stormwater issues or any variety of issues of it not meeting our ordinance. That's really the aim. Yeah. And so applicants are always encouraged to get things in as soon as possible is usually what I say right now, to give me as much time as possible to review things and coordinate our other reviews. The requirement is only 10 days. And frankly, if somebody's getting something in 10 days in advance, we're just not able to provide the customer service to do a full completeness review before it gets to the planning board.
Yes,
So basically, it's giving you an opportunity to do your due diligence before you even take it to the planning board to have them review it. So you're doing your homework instead of having to go to the planning board multiple times. So that's the customer service part.
Yeah.
You're going to go to the planning board with the big picture, not piece parts of it. So to me, it makes perfect sense from that perspective, because that does provide better customer service. I would think Dave would agree that when you want it in front of the planning board, you want all the parts and not have to say, we didn't hear from because it was too short of time. Yeah, so, yeah, I
Yeah,
think.
Isabel's goal is to hopefully bring a nice package with a bow on it and put it in front of the planning board with all of the boxes are already checked. And
Exactly.
if she doesn't have time to have the back and forth with the applicant shows up and then they find out at the meeting that they're missing 1, 2, and 3, and the planning board says, we can't decide tonight, come back next month. So that's what we're trying to avoid. We're trying to make it so they can come in once and then hopefully get their approval and move on, right? That's the idea.
Yes. And from my perspective, it just, as an aside, I'm reviewing for ordinance compliance, but it also gives me the opportunity to negotiate for better projects on behalf of the town. Perhaps the more important part of having professional staff is I can say, how about you redesign it like this? Or have you considered this because there's a trail running through the property? We would prefer if you retains that, even though that's not a specific requirement in every case. So it also gives us that opportunity for that back and forth and negotiation. I should just note, I'm not looking, you don't have to hold a public hearing on this evening. The ordinance is a little bit odd and doesn't give a lot of clarity about what the expectations of the select board are. It just says the select board sets the deadline, so.
So do we need a motion tonight, or we just ask you to put a public hearing on the next meeting?
That's up to you. The ordinance doesn't require a public hearing, so if you're comfortable with it, you can move it along tonight. If you are not comfortable with it and you want to have a public hearing posted, we can do that too. Whatever your comfort level is.
I'm happy to make a motion to amend the deadline to what our planner has recommended to 30 days.
Second. So the motion by Chris, second by Joe to amend the deadline for the materials for the planning board under that section. All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, Isabel.
Thanks, Isabel.
Thank you, and we will get those flow charts posted, so it's obvious to the public that the change has occurred.
Isabel, a question I have. How do you pronounce your last name?
It's Exley.
Excellent.
Excellent. But we might need to learn a new name, right? Or are you keeping your maiden name?
I'm changing it to just Lee is my fiance's name, so. L-E.
You can alleviate this question.
But not until October. I'll be back to talk to you guys
You'll
about
be
that.
so Isabel Lee, not Isabel the planner.
Yeah. Well, thank you, everybody.
Oh, apostrophe Lee.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, thank you.
I like that.
Yes.
Next is approval of minutes for April 16th and April 30th, but I,
No.
No, it should
It's
be.
amended.
I fixed it online, but you already had it in your packet, so.
So it's April 16th and May 14th.
April 16th, May 14th. And I thought they were good.
Yes, I thought both of them. So I make a motion to approve both the minutes for April 16th and May 14th as written.
There was a motion by Chris, second by Kent, to approve the minutes of April 16th and May 14th. All those in favor? Thank you. And next is department reports. And
Tony's online, but he's on there in case you guys have any questions. The two items that I wanted to, I'll just kind of bring on his behalf is he'd like permission to be able to sell the old plow truck, the one that special town meeting approved. But he would like to go through, there's a process, there's a vendor that will kind of advertise it more widely, and it's used by construction type people. He thinks it'll serve us better than just kind of putting it on Facebook and putting it in front of the town office. So if you're okay with that, we'll move forward with that. And when we have when we have an offer, we'll bring it back to you to approve of the sale, if that's acceptable to you. The next item was he would like to ground, there's a term for the round rocks that come out of the screen when we dig our own gravel pit that's unacceptable to put in the roads, because round rocks pop out of the road surface, so they get screened out and they get piled aside. He would like to bring in a crusher. He's talked to a vendor. They would crush about 6,000 yards of these rocks. But It would be somewhat of an expense, but it's $9 a yard to have it crushed, and what we currently purchase it at $18 a yard. So it'd be cheaper for us to use our own material and mix it
How
in.
many years of round rocks is that?
It is several, but to continue with the thing is it looks like Kevin over in Winthrop is interested in buying some of it. So if you would be okay with that, we could potentially charge them a little more than the $9. Winthrop would save money and we would get some revenue to help offset our cost of having it crushed.
DPW, Winthrop DPW?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We have used crushed rock.
We would put it in, our gravel that comes out of that pit is very sandy apparently. So it's not ideal. So by adding this material in, it'll allow it to pack better. So it basically make our gravel more useful.
What do you think we can get from Winthrop?
Tony has some ideas, but I'll leave it to him to try to negotiate.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
I don't know. I hear negotiating with the Winthrop Town Council is a little difficult these days.
Well, they wouldn't necessarily have to approve of it because it's just a public works expense.
Oh.
It's like him buying dirt, so it's part of his budget, so.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to run that concept by you and see if you're okay with that, because if we do come to, we'll have to again come back, because these are town
Yeah.
Owned items and only you have the authority to dispose of them.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to, are you okay with
I'm
that?
happy selling
Scheme.
rocks.
Okay.
Scheme is the wrong word.
Selling rocks. We're selling rocks.
We're
so,
selling
yeah.
rocks. We're crushing them. Getting the best value for our taxpayers.
I don't know if you have any other items that you want to talk, Tony is on there on his phone. If
I'm
you have-
here.
If you have anything specific you would like to talk to him about, he is here.
I had a question about what roads will be paved this year, if that has.
Yep.
any Discussion of that, Scott.
Do you want to mention that, Tony? Did you hear the
Yep.
question?
Yep.
Okay.
So, Academy Road at one time got paved, from Main Street up to just past the, elementary school. Maybe short of the old school that would be on the left headed towards Main Street from my garage. So there's a line there. I want to pave from there to, Main Street. We've been doing a bunch of ditching work and shoulder work. If you've traveled that road, you've seen where we've been working. And the second one is Tilson Road. We started doing some work out there. Just today, we have a problem with a beaver dam that we're kind of battling, but we have to get those problems solved first. Obviously, we can't pave until we have the vote, but right now the game plan is Academy. So half of Academy and Tilson Road.
Thank you.
When did we last pave Tilson?
Oh, it's been a while.
I
So,
think it got paved when I was.
Maybe I'm getting old, but
Yeah.
I remember there being like this whole complaint about the last time we paved Tilson, and then
Cars were going too
the
fast.
cars were going too fast and everyone was all up in arms.
Select
Yeah.
board, so it was probably
Yeah, so
beginning of
Jeez.
my term.
So what you're saying is I am getting old.
I am, so you gotta be right behind me.
Well, it's probably 2020, because I think I was living in East Monmouth when it was paved the last time, so. And
So, how I
moved out
picked-
in
how
23.
I picked those roads was, there was a list developed of, roads that hadn't been paved in a long time.
Yeah.
And, so these were like scheduled to be paved maybe 3 years ago. So
Okay.
we're behind the 8 ball on that. And I did have a discussion with a citizen today talking about potholes and that they prefer them because the cars go slower. Funny how you guys said that.
It's like Main Street right now, right?
Yeah, well, that's a whole different
Speed
ball.
bumps.
That's what they might be saying to you, Tony. But when they call me, it's a little different.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Who's gonna pay for my front end alignment?
Yeah.
By the way, I don't know I don't know who played a role in it, but thank you, whoever filled in the ginormous pothole on Main Street. How did was caused by settlement from the water main.
Well, the water, they're,
Yeah,
the
they
water
had to do
project's
all
doing
that.
that.
They got it straightened out? Okay.
Yeah, they have to do that.
Alright.
so.
While we're on the topic of roads, have we heard anything about the Wagon Bridge replacement process? No.
Yeah, that's looking to go out to bid November or December.
Well, that's okay. I mean, that means they have to have a final design. I'd like to see the final design. Have they had a public hearing on the final design yet?
Not that I know of.
Yeah.
And I have gotten email updates, like let me know that that's when the schedule is and stuff. So
All
I
right.
can send
Tony,
out an email and ask them.
yeah, if you could, that would be helpful, Tony. I am encouraged that they increased the budget for that to something like $2.5 million. Something.
Yeah, they're supposed to do the Bailey Flats bid this around the same time.
Right. Well, the fact that the budget went up to $2.5 million says to me like they're getting the message that the bridge needs to be lifted and the approaches have to be built up. Because originally they were like, no, we're not gonna do that.
Tony, have we started doing any planning for upgrades down at the transfer station? It seems like we're running into this more often with containers being full and the demo being overloaded. And we've talked about it 3 years ago. When I first got on the board, we had some discussion, but it didn't really seem to go anywhere.
So a couple of weekends we have been right to the limit on garbage. One of the issues is we had one of the trailers, we lost the hydraulic pump on, so we had to replace that. That had to be ordered, so that trailer was actually out of the cycle for almost 2 weeks. We've had a couple other breakdowns. We had a trailer today that the hydraulic tank had a leak on it, and so you start looking at the legwork on it, and the trailer was from 1999. So I'm guessing we got our useful life out of that tank, but we were able to repair that, so it's back up and operational. We're going to have to sooner than later visit replacing compactor trailers. Part of the discussion's going to come by next June when the recycling contract comes to an end, and we have to decide what route we're going to go there. I'm sure that's going to be a robust discussion, but right now we're paying a little over 2.5 times tonnage rate for recycle that we are for straight garbage.
There were people.
We've also just go ahead.
There were people in over the weekend that once they found out the recycling trailer was full, they refused to leave their stuff. They took their stuff back home with them to wait to recycle it.
That
So it's
happens
gonna be
way
very
more than
hard
you
if
think.
we decide to move away from recycling to get those people to put that stuff in with the regular garbage.
Yeah, that's going to be a hurdle.
They can keep it at home, I guess. They either throw it in the trash or where it ends up ultimately anyway, because they're not recycling it once Eco Maine gets it. They're only keeping tin and cardboard, or they can keep it and.
It's been drilled into people's heads for 25, 30 years
Yeah.
about recycling and saving the planet, and now that, well, it might not be as great as we think it is.
Mark, I think we need to, we'll have the robust conversation when we get there. But I'm willing to play ball. It seems to me like we have a marketing problem because the reality of Eco Maine is that like 10% of what we paid double, almost more than double to send them, 10% gets turned into waste to energy anyway, which is what we would be doing with the trash.
Yeah.
So maybe we don't call it trash anymore. Maybe we call it waste to energy. And then people feel real good about putting in waste to energy. And then we don't have to pay 2.5 times.
Well, I think,
The cost.
preparation for that discussion,
Yeah.
just having that information and letting people know that we're either gonna have to start charging them per bag for their recycling, Or they can throw it in the trash for nothing, because that's the reality of it, because it's costing us this. Yes. That's right, exactly, and I think that's the education that people need to have, so. We hear it because we're here every other week, but
Right.
most
everyone
people
does.
that go to the transfer station have no idea that that's really the reality of what it costs us to run the transfer station.
So it's a marketing. We'll figure out how to package it in a way that people understand.
Yes.
And I would
have this discussion when the time comes. I know. The police chief hasn't been here for a number of meetings. I know, Dan Roy travels a lot, fire chief. Is there,
The police chief is at his granddaughter's I think it's his granddaughter, or grandson's baseball game tonight.
game.
And he asked if there was
Yes.
anything on the agenda that I wanted him to come here for us. And he said he would miss it, but I told him not to. I told him to go to the game.
Two weeks ago, he said
Another,
consolidation.
I don't know that it matters. When I write, and I haven't been very doing it because of all the various things that have happened with our meetings of late, when they read those select board reports, when I do them, there's not much there to talk about without those guys.
we can make some drama for you, Doug.
I need that. I need it.
Tony, thank you for letting the big pretty truck come in the Memorial Day parade.
Our pleasure.
My mother wanted to know why it was green, and I said that was the way it came. She just has to like it.
Somebody asked if we were gonna paint it, and I said, well, red's my favorite color, but green's my second favorite, so.
Looks like Christmas.
That's right. Yeah, it is perfect.
So I also saw an email from Scott Allen about the issues with
That's
Wilson
all.
Pond Road.
Yeah, we took care of that.
Did they get some calcium or something over there, or?
Tony can touch on that, but there will be calcium put out there, but not right off. There's
Yeah,
other
so,
things they're trying to do.
so we got everything graded and we compacted, as we graded this spring. We're, so, Carver Road, that's what I was trying to think of. We had a culvert blowout, that took us a couple days to fix with all the rain. So vacations, we've had several guys out. We're just time strapped. So calcium's not climbing the list real quick. The dust isn't that bad out there. I talked to Scott, on the phone. So he's fine now, after talking to me. We will be putting calcium out. We have to get equipment ready to do it. We're using that same equipment for other stuff right now. But as time allows and it stops raining a little bit, we will, be providing an application of calcium to the gravel roads. I think part of his concern was, the campers moving in, and that's a lot of heavy traffic there while everybody's moving their camper down to the Yogi Bear.
Yeah, well, as Chris pointed out, when he moved into that house, he must have known that it was on a dirt road. And
Yeah.
that you're gonna get dust at certain times of the year.
Yeah, that was
That would
30
send us
years
a bill
ago.
for
We had that
$150.
Yeah, we're not paying that.
Have he put his own calcium down allegedly?
No, he just went and removed material from the
Yeah.
road on his own.
Yeah, we discussed
He's all
that.
set. Tony
Yeah,
talked to him.
yeah.
He was just trying to get someone's attention. He's fine.
He sent us a whole bunch of videos.
Yeah, I know.
No, I'm the fortunate one. Nobody sends me an email, nobody sends me anything, so I was blind to the whole situation. So that's good for me.
Yeah, you can put that in the minutes.
And the last thing, Tony, looks like the guys are getting their stuff cleaned up down by the lower part of the fairgrounds, trucking stuff out of there and getting
Yeah,
ready for the.
So we had a meeting, I'm pretty sure it was early last week or late the week before that. The contractors, Jeff and his crew from the fairground, we all got together to discuss what the options are. Where they were gonna move their material is out on the farm, at the other end of the project. And, it's just too wet for them to move up, their lay down yard out there. So they're moving their stuff in behind our sand pile now. And as soon as the fair's over, they're gonna move some of their stuff right back out where it was. It's a good location for them. And we worked through it. The contractor was great. Jeff was great. Everything was fine once we got all face to face talking.
Don't leave out the little negotiation you did, Tony.
Well, yeah, we're probably going to be getting some crushed gravel in this transaction.
Oh, not anything other than in my note to you folks. It's been busy couple of weeks getting contracts and things going, but unless you have any questions.
Did the Trails Committee get all the letters of support that they needed?
No, I just got that response. Was it either Thursday or over the weekend or whatever? So I have to go around now and get them written up with
Okay.
suggested language.
So I think it was like three things, either a letter from the planner,
Right, the code officer, I
Code
think,
officer.
and myself, I believe, right?
and then a letter that simply says on your behalf that the
Board is supportive.
board is supportive of the long-term maintenance costs funded by the TIF.
Yep.
There.
Yeah, Chuck sent me that language, so
Okay.
we'll get those out.
And then, can we schedule a presentation, by the auditor?
Yes, once it's complete.
Okay.
I sent you a draft. We don't actually have the signed version yet, but once we get the signed version, I will certainly request that. Yep.
Are there any select board reports other than what we've already?
I have one thing. the Age Friendly is hosting on Wednesday, June 25th at noontime at Cumpston Hall in the lower level, a consumer fraud class that AARP helps put on. So it's, to help prevent scams and identity theft and that type of thing. So that is sponsored by the Age Friendly on Wednesday, June 25th at noontime. And I'll send Dennis the little flyer to post in all the postable places.
Will this deal with the computer
Yes.
stuff? Because
Computer fraud, identity theft, all of those things. It's kind of, in 21st century.
Because all that you send it, I get something every week.
Yes, to do
That has
online
some supposed
training. Yes, online trainings.
I signed you up for the same things that all the staff get because you have town email addresses.
Yes,
And I do that. It's great. I
yeah,
think.
you learn a lot with those little things.
Yeah.
I get tested every day. Hey, just click this button.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take your toll.
Yeah, from your cell phone.
I haven't driven on the turnpike for a month. So that's
So-
the only thing I have.
Thank you. Public comment?
Oh, I have one question for the town manager before we move on from the select
Great.
board. Have we heard at all from the engineer that's supposed to be doing this analysis for the Annabeth Cook Dam?
I just reached out to them just the other day and they said that they've finally gotten that stuff back. So now they have to analyze it to put it into their report.
Okay.
So I talked to them, but they don't have it ready for us yet, but it is moving along.
Really slow.
Yes.
Well,
Is there a
It
reason?
was the third party, it was the water level people that they contracted with that were backed up for a while. So
it's backed up because everyone in the state is,
it's doing the same thing, I think. Yeah,
they all want the same person.
right, to do the study.
Yeah.
For the 100-year level or whatever, however that works.
Yes,
I just had
ma'am.
one quick comment about the age friendly is that the group is not necessarily have an age limit. We'd like as many people to get involved with the age friendly group as Ken, so you don't have to have an AARP card
Yes. Or be eligible for one.
or be eligible for one to be part of that group. So
Because we're age friendly, any
Right.
age can join.
any age can join and, you know, I think it would help if we had some younger people on it. With some of the things we're having discussions for and things like that, so
You should put that in your minute.
that, you could put that in.
They're looking, age-friendly committees looking for young whippersnappers.
Yes, because we're age friendly.
They're lucky if they'll age it one day.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, young whippersnappers who want to pay it forward.
Yeah.
Oh, did we, public comment?
That was
That was
my last
it.
comment.
Yes, you-
From DOT yet
What?
on the speed limit?
No,
Because as those ventures move forward, the traffic's just already bad, it's gonna go crazy once we actually have a few residents. I heard, and I understand that the other development just down the road diminished in number.
yeah, they had to take, they're having a phosphorus issue. It has to do with the runoff. They have options, but they have to do something to mitigate that.
So for now, the number that we should see will be a little less than 63 or whatever.
I think they've so far I don't know, maybe Dave knows. I think they've did 14 houses out.
14 then are gonna come back at another time, like phased. If they want to do more, they'll come back with
They're now
another
working
phase.
on getting the phosphorus and the water done while they're building the 14.
Is it off the Berry Road? Where is it?
No, it's just one on Main Street.
What are they doing on one of their Berry and Main?
There's a house going in
The
there.
house, there's a house?
I know, my mother asked me that today too.
What's going on 202? There's big clearing out on 202. I don't know that one.
They're on two.
Is that?
Right at the town line where they're hauling in there.
Yeah, I don't know, someone
Across from the
just
barn.
harvesting or it might just be harvesting trees, but
You mean on the Winthrop line? At the Polkey Furniture?
trying to remember where I saw it. No, it's on the straight stretch on 202 in Monmouth.
I thought it belonged to Wilson's.
Street.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Okay.
that's straight.
Yeah, there's a lot of straight stretches, I know.
You mean going to Winthrop on the right-hand side, from the bog,
No,
where Wilson owned that and
no, other direction.
going towards Pine Moor?
Yeah.
You're talking about the
Dollar,
whole
half
equipment?
Dollar General that way?
Yeah, past Dollar General.
The gentleman that bought that property on the right-hand side also just bought on the left-hand side.
Yeah,
So he's put a road in behind that building.
Yeah.
The building. I have no idea what was. I've stopped in the office 3 times now and can't get an answer.
that was fine. Just curious.
Good
You know,
question.
I drove by and I'm like, whoa, someone's cut a lot of trees. There's a lot of
Right
construction.
over the Wetland.
Oops.
Be nice to know what's going on out there.
They must have a permit.
Uh,
They can only move 10 yards of material.
Can't get a hold of the codes guy.
That's a Kyle, I don't know. That's a common problem.
They move more than 10 on the right-hand side.
Good question, Ken.
I didn't know I was coming to a ping pong match.
How do you move on to the presentation from the Cobussy Lake Association?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Hey, first of all, I have to say, how delightful it is to see a select board that seems to enjoy their work, are happy people, and have a good sense of humor.
Well,
Great, it really is. But anyway, let me start. We appreciate the time offered tonight. My name is Peter Mullendijk. I'm Vice President of the Cobb's County Lake Association. John Stanek's also on the board, has a couple things to drop off for you, and we'll be answering questions here shortly. And Sean Terrio, who is our new lake manager on Cobb's County, and he will be able to answer questions and talk a bit about what that role is. Just very quickly, the mission of the Lake Association, after a sort of quick reorganization maybe 4 years ago, we worked through a process of mission and goals, but it's really primarily to protect and improve all aspects of water quality on the lake so that current and future generations may always be able to enjoy the lake community, the wildlife, and the beauty of the lake itself. So that is our focus. And over the past couple of years, we've been, of course, dealing with the invasive plant issue, which is affecting a lot of different water bodies around you. I know you dealt with this in water areas. So the association continues to focus on that, and we're clearly pleased that the towns, and including Monmouth, but all 5 towns have been supporting our efforts financially to be able to address CBI, courtesy boat inspections, on a regular basis and on a growing basis. And we're dealing primarily with CBIs and with invasive plant controls. There momentarily, sorry about that. I think what I'd like to do at this point is ask John if he would give you something new that we've developed for the coming year.
So we printed these maps to distribute at the boat landing. Awesome. They're on waterproof paper. And we hope people will keep them with them while they're on the lake and thinking about going on the lake. The map highlights everything we're concerned about as a lake association. You have a chance to look over the various little bits of information on there. It really condenses down to everything the Lake Association is working on and is concerned with. I do that as a member of what we call the Lake Ambassador. So I was at the Monmouth Landing, your landing, Saturday morning, greeting all of the one guy coming Saturday morning in the rain to launch his boat.
Yes.
I'm sure it'll pick up with weather.
Yeah. The Lake Association continues to grow. We have 700 plus members from a potential membership of 900 from the actual property owners that have frontage on the lake. 900 properties estimated, and we have 700 members. 129 of those members are from Monmouth. And that's always, of course, encouraging. And sometimes it's positive, interested in knowing what that number is. And we have over 150 total volunteers that are doing different aspects of work that the association does on the lake. That's a brief introduction. I think after Sean speaks about his role as the lake manager, this is a new position. It's the only paid position that the Lake Association has, entirely operated and managed by volunteers. But this position we determined was critical to the success of maintaining quality on the lake. Talk about that.
And get a picture in there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Good picture too. Isn't he?
Yeah.
He's handsome, huh? Yeah. We want to make sure that people knew who he was and how to get a hold of him.
I have some, and we brought extras so that hopefully the town manager can bring some of the town office. And we certainly have more, if you happen to run out of those, but my name's Sean Terrio. I'm the new lake manager. And if you're asking yourself, what is a lake manager? It's a great question. But the association found over the years as they started to grow that they felt they needed more resources. They felt that while the towns and all the entities in the towns, from fire, EMS, and code enforcement office in all 5 municipalities and all state agencies, from DEP Inland Fisheries and Wildlife and Department of Conservation have all aligned missions with keeping the lake healthy and future generations. That they found that even with within our own association, there are many subcommittees doing lake health and survey work for aquatic invasive species and water quality and state of outreach. They learned of a lake in Upper New York, it's Upper Saranac Lake. That lake had a foundation and they experienced aquatic invasive species, specifically Eurasia water milfoil, about 10 years prior to Cobbossee. And what they learned from evaluating that lake's progress, and it has gotten progressively better over the last 10 years, is that they found that one of the key functions of that progress was by hiring a lake manager. Now, I'm only a part-time position, I'm full-time in the summer. But my role is to really, the Lake Associations wants me to be the voice of Cobbossee. So if you're a state agency and you're looking to find out what the status of something is on Cobbossee, there's really no single person, no single focus or point of contact to call. Having spent 26 years for the Department of Fisheries and Wildlife, I understand this completely. In my experience, I think every lake, every major body of water could use a single point of focus like that. Also, if you're a municipality and it can be very difficult to have an employee to be able to access the water. Also, for residents on the water, it's difficult sometimes to know, with all the various laws and entities out there, who to call and who's responsible for what. That essentially comes down to the lake management position. So my primary focus every day really is surveying for milfoil and looking for issues that would contribute to algae blooms, because nobody wants any of that. I still have training wheels on. I've only been on the water for 4 weeks, and I think we've had 3 or 4 sunny days in that period. So
Just you wait.
yeah, I know. It's been, and I've been learning a lot. I've met with so I've been at the legislature. I've seen Kent there, tracking bills that could affect water quality and affect Cobbossee. I've outreach to all 5 communities. I've been trying to meet with code enforcement in all 5 communities to find out what is important to them. The association really wants me to be available to every municipality for anything that they need on the water. I've talked to the chief. I haven't met with the fire department yet or EMS. I plan on meeting with Winthrop Dispatch. I've been slowly making contacts with all state entities and municipalities. I have heard from Andy, the code enforcement, is it Andy, the code enforcement officer? He and I were communicating recently about an issue. And my focus really every day is to be a resource on the water for any state entity, anybody on the water, and any municipality. And we've been trying to get that word out. I have done in 4 weeks a complete range of issues that you can imagine, from finding silt coming in the water, working with Cobbossee Watershed District, working with Watershed Friends, working with DEP, Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. Right now, there are no wardens on the lake. There'll be, and there won't be until they get out of warden school at the end of the fall. I've been working with the Department of Conservation, NAVAIDS. We've had 2 NAVAIDS on Cobbossee that were off their coordinates, and I was able to work with them to get them back on. NAVAID, all our resources spread thin. The NAVAIDS do a great job. There's a small team that covers the entire state. So they wouldn't be able to get those NAVAIDS back in place for a couple of weeks when I contacted them. The Department of Environmental Protection is currently surveying the lake. I've been assisting them with our volunteers. Again, we have approximately 140, 150 volunteers that I coordinate their efforts on the lake in an effort to both fill in with other state agencies and what they're doing. Ideally, we'd love to have somebody from the municipalities and state agencies on the water full-time, selfishly, but that can't happen. Everybody that has any responsibility within the watershed or with Cobbossee, whether it be a municipality or state agency or some of our partners like the watersheds in the watershed district, also have competing priorities throughout the watershed and throughout the state. So really, right now, I'm the only person that is on the water, completely responsible for Cobbossee and everything to do with Cobbossee. Which I think brings us to our next question. And after hearing everything you guys have to consider, I hate to even bring up such a, you know, I guess seemingly small issue, but important issue to us. And that's the Monmouth boat landing. The reason why we're here is because the Monmouth boat landing has been deteriorating over time. And right now there's actually a significant erosion issues that are coming from the landing in the lake. And it's not, there are only 2 landings, and the East Winthrop landing, you know, doesn't get nearly as much use as Monmouth. Monmouth has a great landing. And you know, so we're hoping, you know, I hate coming to you with problems and everything else you have on your plate, but we're hoping to work together to find a solution to solve that erosion issue with landings. And also, as one of our initiatives is to enhance the state's clean, drain, dry process, which basically requires boaters to clean their boat, dry it, and make sure that there's a plug removed before they leave. And that plug now under state law has to be removed before they enter another body of water. Monmouth is unique and prevents and poses some unique challenges because everything is pitched towards the water. And ideally, before somebody removes their plug, they would be in an area that you know, their bilge wouldn't leach back into the lake. What we're finding right now in our observations at Monmouth is that, you know, they'll remove their plug just a little, they'll get up a little ways out of the way so the next boat can come in, and they remove their plug, and there's still a potential for that bilge to get back in the water. So we know you have great staff in Public Works and great staff on board, and you know, we have some ideas with some things that might help, but I'm sure that, you know, together we can probably come up with a solution that may be healthier for the lake and hopefully not cost a lot of money. It sounds like you're.
Is that landing, inland fisheries or conservation? Who
That's-
is the other
I
managing
believe,
partner in
correct me if
that?
I'm wrong, I believe that's owned by the town.
I was just thinking that, you know, normally where the boat landing signs are, it usually has underneath it who else manages it. Like, you know, I think it's what conservation at Cottonwagon, right? Or is it?
Yeah.
It says 2 names on it where the boat landing sign is.
Not that one.
But not at Cobussy. There's no other management.
Boat landings are
issues
funny
there.
because some of them are owned by municipalities.
Yes.
Some are owned by the Department of Conservation.
Yes.
And some are owned by inland
By
fisheries.
inland
So you're
fisheries.
not
So
wrong.
that's why I'm wondering, that's why I was thinking that. So in this case, no, it's ours.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, I think we own, I think the IF&W paid for the construction of it and the
Yes.
town owns the real estate. And so we have this MOU with them,
Yeah,
right? So IF&W came in with federal funding
when they rebuilt that.
back, way back when. And then actually it came in a second time to do the expansion of the parking lot,
Yes.
just to
Yes.
improve the flow of traffic
Yeah.
and make room for people because it was so popular.
Yeah.
They had people parking on the roads and
Oh,
Yeah,
disrupting the neighborhood.
right, we've seen it.
Yeah, so.
Signs that tell people, don't drain your boat until you're away from the lake.
There are informative signs and they're typical state signs in that there's a lot of text and we're busy, most people don't read them.
Yeah,
But there's some signs that do educate about clean, drain, dry. It doesn't really direct people where to do it. The state does have an initiative to provide tie down areas that are appropriate for drainage as well. And we think that Monmouth Landing itself, there could be some areas there that could be signify voters that an appropriate place to tie your boat down that's out of the way and still allow parking and safe to drain at that location. Some landings have them, some don't. Of course, we're concerned.
Is there enough space there to be able to do that with traffic flow?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, we did look at it and it seemed that there were options and as well as, an opportunity to improve that
Sure.
process.
Have you had a chance to talk to Deanna Circo?
I know Deanna well. I haven't talked to him about Monmouth. This is actually the first time we do any outreach about the landing itself.
So he's kind of the gatekeeper on the federal funds that are like earmarked for Maine, right? I mean, there's an account anytime somebody pays for boat registration or hunting license, there's a certain portion of that funding that actually goes to the federal government maybe not hunting licenses, but I think it's boat registration. It's like a certain percentage that accumulates in an account, a federal account that is earmarked for Maine. And that is the source of building and modifying boat launches. And IF&W makes the recommendation and an application, and, you know, this is where 90% of the cost of the Anabescook boat launch came from. It wasn't actually state money, it was federal money. It kind of belonged to the state because it had accumulated over a certain number of years. And
Does that get funneled through the state, back through the state?
yeah, they've got the state kind of has to prove to the federal government that they're using it to enhance boat, water access, basically. So there's a bunch of hoops to jump through for federal stuff. But there I would talk to Deanno to see if this is the sort of project that might actually check the box for that federal funding. And if, you know, if that's the case, then there may be an opportunity there to say, hey, we want to modify it this way and improve the, for the purpose of controlling invasives. I don't know.
Yeah, and that's certainly an option. What I guess the part that I didn't know was, for Anabescook, I know the state owns the land and therefore, you know, was able to contribute the funds.
Yep.
I didn't know if Monmouth would have to, whether town of Monmouth owns the land, if they would have to make the request. I certainly
Don't know.
can reach out to Deanno.
Yeah, let us know
Let him know what the issue is.
let us know what the hoops are that you need from us. We're
Okay.
happy to figure that one out.
And would
But I-
Tony go
Well,
and,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. I think if you have a plan about how you think it might work, I would, you know, make time with Tony and Justin
Yeah,
to
we could
meet
set up a
and,
time that myself and Tony, who's the public works director.
Yeah.
go down.
and-
He's still online, he's listening in.
Yeah, and look and
I
see.
mean, the last thing I want to do is pay more work for, sounds like an already.
Well, I mean, but I think it's
Right,
one of
right.
those things. I mean, that lake, we know that Monmouth is essentially an island. We have lakes on every side of us, and if we
Sure.
don't protect what we've got going on around us, you know, we are not protecting who we are as a town, you know, and those lakes have been parts of our lives for a very long time, and we know that we need to do the right thing for them. So if,
Just as an example, it is to the point where the courtesy boat inspector that's there at Monmouth all the time, really, really nice gentleman, spends a lot of time retrieving material from the lake that belongs to the
Ex-
land, trying to fill in the
That's
holes
not
in
good.
patchwork. and-
yeah, so I think, you know, if there's things that need to be addressed, I mean, obviously, that's probably not the place. If they go down there to collect trash, and that's, you know,
Check the vault.
what they're, and that's it, you know, so if there's some things that could be addressed and that's a possibility, make time with Tony and Justin to go down there and take a peek at it and come up with a plan, so.
But just because you mentioned the trash, made me think that, there's a Monmouth resident that lives at the end of Launch Drive off 135. He and his wife walk their dog down Launch Drive daily. And
Casey and Amber.
you got it. And they graciously pick up a lot of garbage. They requested, knowing that I was coming here, that I at least highlight the issue. They were hoping to get some trash receptacles down at the landing. Apparently there were some there before, and there's no longer any there.
Tony?
I told them.
It's always kind of, that stuff's always kind of delicate, because if you put it down there, it's gonna get loaded up with stuff on the weekends from people's boats, and there's nobody to empty it. So then we'll have raccoons dragging around people's food wrappers and all.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the issue, is we have to balance. I do understand where they're coming from, but the issue is that boat landing is so busy that those receptacles will be overflowing and the animals will be in it before Public Works can go down there on Monday. There's nobody on the weekend to deal with it, so that becomes an issue. We sometimes have the issue down at Cocknowagon, and that's not even that busy of a boat
Busy.
launch.
but you get it with the beach though too.
Right,
Can
exactly.
we think about a bigger receptacle or?
Potentially, but then you have people that will throw their dining room table in it. If it's a dumpster.
One of the five mattresses that.
Yeah, or whatever else you can think of, tires and.
Mattresses, Tony's mattresses.
Right.
They're recycled.
Yeah, the recyclable.
So, I mean,
No, but we can think about that too. I'm just telling you, those are some of the hurdles that we.
Exactly.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
We did well.
But if you know of other examples where maybe something works at another landing, a type of receptacle or something.
Right. Yeah.
Then
And there aren't any, to be fair, there aren't any at the East Winthrop launch either.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem, I don't
We
know,
used to-
it's more visible, I guess, and.
So the East Monmouth hand carry across the jug stream,
Yeah.
you know, on corner Sanborn Road and
Yeah.
135. We used to have one there and then it got abused. Like
Yeah.
people were, instead of going to the transfer station, they were putting their trash in the trash can.
by the flag.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so, you know, finally we're like, okay, we're not playing this game and we just took it away. And I mean, that's not the greatest of solutions. And sometimes you make policy for, you know, the 1%, the 99% of people are gonna be completely reasonable. And then there's 1% that's totally outrageous.
The 1% will continue to do it.
Yeah.
But it's 1%.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess just in closing, like my part as a lake manager, the association really has given me a wide berth of issues to deal with. So I was recently certified by DEP in advanced erosion controls for building. And I also have an AED on my boat, first responder certified, recertified with the town of Manchester, and a complete med kit. I'm available for any and all emergency responses. I mean, I do get a couple days off a week, but I live in Augusta, about 15 minutes from my boat. That boat is available to any resource that you can think of that needs to access the water. We know it's difficult. The association knows it's difficult for municipalities to get a boat, get somebody trained and get them out there. So from code enforcement to fire and EMS, if they ever want to come out and just survey your municipality from the water on Cobbossee, please tell them to call me and I'll make time.
Where are did you guys get surface use restriction zone?
So right now, there is one surface use restriction in the outlet in Manchester.
Where's that?
Cobbossee Stream.
Yes. Upper right hand side. So one of the things, this brings up a perfect point with these charts, and the boating inspectors are gonna be updating these with a pencil. As you know, as they're talking with boaters, they'll be able to say, there's a surface use restriction on this side of the bridge.
Cool.
And they'll be able to circle that. Yeah, one of the other things I'll be doing is, as DEP and friends find aquatic invasive species, one of the things we've heard from boaters on the lake is that they get a lot of emails, not everybody reads them, and if they do read them, they don't necessarily understand the point of reference on the chart. So the chart, and even in the E911 system, will map to the closest camp road. It doesn't really reference anything on the lake. So we're hoping that by getting everybody on the lake a chart like this, it will help identify where there are concerns or if there's a response that's needed. So getting everybody on the same page with terminology, this chart was produced by the Department of Conservation, NAVAID's department, and we got permission from them to reproduce it. And when Watershed Friends or our volunteers or DP finds invasive plants, one of the things we found is they do put a marker out there and they do a great job at identifying where those markers are. A lot of people don't know what they are. And I'll be placing yellow, if you look on the map, on the chart in the back, there's some flags here on a yellow buoy. I'll be placing buffers around that. It's just an advisory buoy to let people know that beyond those buoys are currently, there are invasive species. There's some out on Cobbossee right now in Hodgson Cove. And it's particularly concerning because with the Eurasian water milfoil, if you just brush it, it fragments. And then it can propagate in other areas. So the warning and what we've heard from boaters on the lake and residents on the lake is that while they know there's a concern, they really don't know where. There's no visual indicator on where they should try to avoid. And we're hoping that these buffer buoys will give everybody a reference. They're temporary, but once the plants have been mitigated, I'll be removing those. It's not illegal to penetrate those areas. It's just a warning to say, if you have to go in this area, please be careful, or if you can avoid it, please avoid it. And here if you have any questions.
For
Mayor mentioned he was gonna be going to, what, the dispatch? I think that'd be a great resource to touch base with. You mentioned your boat. And so there's a whole lot of EMS and fire service, fire departments that they know your contact information or additional people that would have access to the boat. Because for instance, we just had an emergency that we were involved in a couple weeks ago with
Yes. Yeah,
the issue and the town of Monmouth was involved in that, and if we'd have known your resource was available, I'm quite certain we'd have been on the phone.
yeah, that was an unfortunate incident and I hired all the game wardens that were there and the next morning when I found out, and I called them, they said, oh, sorry, we didn't know if you'd come out with that, we didn't want to bother you. And, guys, come on, hey, you're the one agency I didn't think I had needed to interface with. Then all the residents on the lake thought I was out there because it was my former agency, so, you know, that's now resolved, and now on there, my call out information is there. The next rainy day I get, I will be in Winthrop looking for them Saturday. And dispatch will be open Saturday, so that's actually a good mention. So
Yeah, but I'd like to add something. When that unfortunate event happened, Sean's boat was not quite equipped with the right lighting. And he's done it now. I mean, it's amazing. He's got spotlights on that thing that are, it's very cool. It's radio equipped, he knows. He monitors.
I don't have Winthrop dispatch frequencies yet, so that's one of the things I need to talk to them about is to get permission for that. I do have the state agency frequencies, but you know, by all means, please let people know what the resource is.
Sure.
Happy to help. I myself still have training wheels on. I'm still learning what resources and capabilities do exist on the lake. I know that Lakeside, on the north side has a lot of capabilities, and the Birches in Litchfield has a lot of capabilities as well. Their membership they actually have a yellow dispatch, a yellow group they call it, and it's all their residents at the campground that have fire, EMS, medical capabilities. They're all on a text string. They respond to incidents on the water and within the campground themselves. I mean, they're all volunteers, but professionally, when they're not camping, do all this stuff on the side, so.
So we have soft water, but what about hard water months? Would you have snowmobile, or would you still be responding as an individual representing the lake? Is that, or you kind of close down for that?
Kind of closed down, so I do have, it's a 1,080-hour position. In the off-season, they do, my contract with the association does have some hours set aside for the month. That really is to be able to attend meetings like this. If there's an issue that comes up with Cobbossee, is to be able to interface with all of our stakeholders and legislative issues in the off-season. So I am available in the off-season. I suppose if there was a need, I do, just as an aside, I volunteer for the Cobbossee Lake Ice Fishing Derby on the personal side, but right now, this position is new and we haven't been through a full season yet, so I suppose if there is a need, I would present that to the president of the association and see if that's something he wanted me to do.
So your background, just because I'm nosy. Were you a warden or did you work in IFNW?
Yeah,
In
so
another position?
I was a warden for 26 years.
Yeah.
And I was in the Air National Guard for 26 years as well.
Okay.
I've since retired from both.
So what part of Maine did you?
So I patrolled Western Maine.
Yeah.
And then I promoted to the Maine office and was the captain of the Maine Warden Service, which is basically a program administrator and does internal affairs investigations for the last 10 years of my career.
Yeah.
And I have no interest in doing any law enforcement anymore.
Exactly.
Yeah, this time, this is.
Yeah.
yeah.
No.
We just didn't get to see you on, Northwoods Law with Chris McKay.
Yeah, well, Chris being
Yeah.
a Monmouth resident, let him be Hollywood.
Exactly.
I tried to stay away.
And, Boobier.
Yes.
Like him.
Actually, Josh,
He's super secret.
Josh,
Moved up.
he just took my position.
Yeah, did he?
That's
He did.
right.
So when I retired, I felt very fortunate. I know Josh and Chris very well. Chris actually worked for me in the landowner relations program.
Yeah.
Does a very good job. And then Josh, took over as the captain. So
Yeah.
they're great. I made a couple brief, I tried to stay away from the cameras.
Exactly.
I lived in Texas and people would ask me if I knew any of those people all the time. And we loved Northwoods Law. then they'd all say, well, it's not the crime of the century. And I
Yes.
said, yeah, I know,
Chris.
I know, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But that's right out of Carl's mouth, so, you know.
In case people are wondering, my role is to really, it's outreach and education,
Yeah.
it's milfoil and algae. And, you know, but I guess the subset is, I also have Clark Marine has graciously donated life jackets for a loaner program. So far I've given out about 6 life jackets to people that haven't had them in this cold
Oh,
water.
good on you.
Exactly.
And they,
Teenagers probably.
no,
No.
Really?
honestly, paddleboarders.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's an.
On Cobbessy, paddle boarders on Cobbessy, you don't have a life jacket.
Early May.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
No
it-
wetsuit.
Yeah,
thanks to Clark Marine, they, there's a tag on it that says they can learn to return to Lakeside Marina or leave it on the end of their dock and I'll go pick it up.
Yeah.
Great program. We're very thankful for Clark Marine. They also sponsored about a third of the boat cost.
yeah.
It's important though to us that people know that Sean is not enforcement.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
I work to keep them out of trouble.
Yeah.
There's been a
Yeah.
little bit of pushback, that we've heard, thinking that the Lake Association is paying for a warden to be on the lake, and that is not his role, but by any stretch. As he just said, he's there to help people, not get them in trouble.
Yeah.
The other thing I think is important is some of the towns that were, you know, questioning the lake manager position, and that position is funded entirely by private donor funds.
Yeah.
So the funds that the town contribute, all 5 towns like yourself, help fund the CBI program. That's what, you know, that program has had to continue to expand. Simply because of the nature of basis and the amount of time really that people can access the water.
And I brought this up several years ago because we have a boat rental group in Monmouth. And, you know, those boats are in Monmouth Lake. So if somebody's rented that boat for a week and had it out on Cobbessy, but they didn't do anything to it or clean it or check it, and it goes back to the rental place, and then they take it to Cottonawagan or Wilson the next time. Those are the things I would really encourage you to go shake the hand of the people that have the boat rental place on.
So I didn't know that there was a boat rental place.
Yes,
Oh, yeah,
in Hill
I'd love
Road.
to get that information.
Yes, and shake their hand and say, we need you to clean these boats, because they could end up in, you know, Wilson Pond next week after they've been in Cobbessy and grab something along there. So I think it's really important to go talk to them, and why can I not think of their name? Beacon Boat, yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Angel.
Angel, yeah.
Sean, I'll text you his
Perfect.
contact
I
information.
appreciate that.
Yeah, I think that that's really important, because that,
Cause all.
I live right down the street, and I know that those boats can end up on any lake, you
Yeah,
know,
that's right.
within
They
the,
all feed.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Make no mistake about it, the best way to transport invasive species is to go from one body of
That's
water
right.
and go in shallow areas.
And then that's what, you know, most of those are pontoon boats that they rent out, so they are, you know, swooping in those areas, so,
I also interface with every bass fishing tournament.
Yes.
That's on the lake and
Yeah.
make myself available to them. I also assist with their processes if they let me.
Yeah.
So far, every tournament organizer has been great and has welcomed me right into their weigh-in station and look at what they're doing to be compliant with state law. And so far, I think the position has been well received. I've handling complaints from dock issues, and I'm not necessarily handling myself, but I'm the interface and try to get the problem that people don't know how to solve to the right solution. And from docks that are too close to others to beaver problems to debris on the lake and nav aids, it's
Just education, I
Yeah.
think people appreciate that, just being able to educate people, even if they're just here for a short period of time. And as she said, you know, these resources are just so important to
And
us.
from a code enforcement perspective, I don't want to create more work for them,
Yeah.
but I would love to, I guess ideally get them in the boat on the water to look at Monmouth territory and I can learn from them on what they feel is important and what they feel is not. any of those issues that I can help with, I'm happy to.
Yeah, and if there's something that we can do as a select board to help the process along for, reducing the amount of erosion at the boat launch, or being more attentive to the cleanliness of the bathrooms, that was one thing not under this town manager, but other town managers we got a lot of pushback and feedback during the COVID years when stuff wasn't good and it needs to be straightened out.
Yeah, well, those are tough years on every public.
Of course,
resource, I think,
yeah. So anyway, if there's, feel free to give us some feedback on how things are going.
Will do.
Hey, thank you for the time.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for coming in.
And
Thank
the
you.
interest.
And I'll connect with Deanna and, is the appropriate
Absolutely.
place to get back to Justin on the response from the state?
Yeah, if you want to.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, that'll work. And,
Scheduling.
and like we discussed, sometime early next year in the winter, our budget process starts really early because they have to have it all approved by April. So if you want to come in when all the lake groups are in here on that night, they usually kind of all come at once and there's a whole bunch of them here. And if you want to sort of be a part of that group, you can. They all update us on, all the different bodies of water that are around here.
How do they find out what the date is for that?
They usually pay attention to our budget because they are really here because they have a budget request in front of them to approve for the donation. So they like to come when that's on the budget. Feel free to reach out to me and I can tell you when you should come.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you all.
Thank you.
Okay, to consider approving the ATV, UTV access route policy.
So we sent around a new version of that with, I think we incorporated the changes that were suggested.
Looked pretty reasonable to me.
You have a copy of it here?
I didn't print copies of it.
No, because I read it. I didn't print it.
I printed off the DOT, actually a proposed rule that hasn't been implemented, but they're following it now as their approval process. So,
Can we talk a little bit about the DOT interface?
yes.
Tell us a little more about what they're gonna look for.
So what they want to see is the ATV group needs to be the one to make the request. And then what they want to see is the municipal officers concur with what their request is. They want to see that the route on the state, either maintained or state-owned roads are connecting routes somehow. And then they maintain the signs on their portion of the road. So that they will install them at their
Pleasure.
yeah, and they have, this is what they're gonna put up.
Okay.
So they have a standard that they want, and they have the same thing with the snowmobiles.
Great. I don't know if Tony's still with us. We should, if they're gonna use specific,
Right,
standardized
we would
signs,
copy these.
Yeah.
then we would need to make sure they match. We don't
Yeah,
wanna,
we call them the green signs.
Right, yeah.
Because they're green signs.
Green signs.
So once there's kind of a request, it talks about the request from the trail group, whatever you want to call them. That has to be accompanied by a written request from the municipal officials that's basically concurring with the route that they are proposing.
did you fill them in on what our thoughts were in terms of? I mean, let's put the elephant on the table. Their proposed rule that they are now following says that it needs to connect a trailhead to a trailhead.
Right.
Something like that.
Right, that's what it says.
So did you give them a chance, did you fill them in on what we had in mind in Monmouth in terms of connecting town roads?
No, they weren't really interested. They wanted me to know what the process was and then to get the group to submit a request that they could review.
Okay. Well, we have two members of the group in front of us right now.
Did you get a sample of what they're looking for?
No, they gave me this, which is their proposed rule, and they said this is.
Get a copy of?
Yeah, absolutely. I can put it.
Bring it to the meeting and we'll get it back to you next week.
I have it copied here.
We have an.
You have an extra, actually, you want the paper? You can have this one.
Probably not. This is late breaking news.
Late breaking news,
Okay.
obviously, he's our representative and get him up to speed and.
That's fine. That's fine.
I asked who the contact person was in the commissioner's office to send the request, and they sent this back and said, this is the new process.
Okay, Mr. President. So, Mr. President, as I understand it, the rule, the proposed rule that they are now following requires there to be a trailhead and a trailhead
We'll
at
find
one end or the other of the stretch of state administered road that we're looking for.
We'll come up with something for you.
I'll put our trail maps. Trails.
I don't know. I mean, maybe we could call a town way a trail and call it a trailhead.
Well, my thought kind of was, is I think you could probably make the argument that we need to get from point A to point B on Main Street so that you can get to the town roads, which will then get you to wherever you want to go, because they don't control the town road. So like if we want to drive up a cat, that's simply, these folks can make that call. But the issue is getting on Main Street is gonna be that's the hurdle,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And that's the only one we're talking about at this point is Main Street, so.
Roads at least touch a town right of way somewhere.
Kick it around, find somewhere.
I would make a motion that as a select board, we support whatever proposal the ATV club is going to come forward with for the stretch of Main Street that goes from
Academy Road.
Academy, the intersection of Academy Road to the Chick Orchard's fruit stand.
Which is what it says in the new policy that I amended. It says that now.
Does it say
To the
It actually says to the town office is what
The
it says.
town
Oh,
office.
town office.
Says to the
Town
town office.
Actually, I think there's a trail at the town office.
Right.
town office?
Yes,
Don't worry
there
about
is.
it. You got that one?
You just need to find one on the other end.
And there's a trail up at Chick.
Okay, so maybe that will work.
So
Yeah.
I think we can connect it.
All right, but I just made a motion so that they can put it in their letter. That the select board is going to support this, or,
All right, that
Well, I'll write a letter on your behalf that will accompany their request.
okay.
Okay.
works.
You good? Do you need a second and an official vote on that, or?
For that?
What do we vote? Are we
You
trying?
can vote to support that, and then I also need you to support the policy if that policy is okay the way
All
that it's
right, so
written.
there'll be a second motion coming forward.
I'd suggest a change in the policy.
Okay,
Purpose of this policy is to authorize. I don't, policies don't authorize, ordinances do. So I'd suggest the change to say the purpose of this policy is to implement the operation of UTV in designated roadways in Monmouth as authorized.
okay.
So I think that's
Implement as authorized.
as authorized,
Understood.
because policies don't authorize, they implement.
Yep, okay, I can make that change.
You want me to email it to you? I had a,
No, because I can hear you. I listened to it after. That's how I did it. That's why I don't write everything down when you guys are amending it, because I listen to what was said later. It's easier to do it at my computer.
this leaves out, East Monmouth, South Monmouth, North Monmouth. Do you think these areas will feel?
Slighted.
Well, I think that we
Oh
were
my
trying
God.
this as doing this as a starting point to see how it worked and how it was received and how it was utilized or misutilized. And then from there, we could add or subtract and add other portions. That's how I visualize this as a,
Right.
a test.
Like you just go in
Case.
the wall and-
This is the test case.
We couldn't manage the whole town
No.
at once.
No, exactly. We couldn't bring everybody on at once. It would just be too
Area
much.
of each, I mean, like an area of South Monmouth, an
Yeah,
area of
I wouldn't.
East,
Well,
Yeah.
the trouble with that,
North.
Doug, is, like I said at the last meeting, we need trailheads.
Yeah,
And the only trailheads that we have with no trails, let's continue, we don't have trails yet, but we're using this ordinance to, instead of the reverse, we're using the ordinance to get trails rather than the trails looking for access routes when you lose the reason access routes started is there were trails that lost a section by a landowner, lost that section and had to connect the trail somehow, and they used the road. So they used access roads to get from where they lost. Well, we're going the other way.
Yeah.
We're trying to appease the people that want to use ATVs to get into town. Let's try that first.
Yes.
And then.
I know there are trails in North Monmouth. Snowmobile trails.
Yeah, but not.
Yeah, but-
Not ATV trail.
We've already been through that. We actually had almost permissions granted in Northmont. We had actually probably better than a mile granted. But there was still a couple of hesitant people, but most of them said yes in the section we were looking at. But to maintain and start and actually implement in the woods all that, it takes a large workforce. The workforce that already takes care of the 40 miles that exist, 40+ miles for snowmobiles. You can't, we went to that group and basically said, we want to start making ATV trails, which could not always use all that 40 miles. And they basically didn't come forward with enough individuals to make this happen. So I think the hope is that with people seeing the ATVs going down Main Street and a couple little trailheads that we're gonna have to make this all work, that this will be a catalyst and impetus for, wow, this seems to be working to some, maybe we should do more and develop some interest in people that step forward and said, we'll volunteer, we'll do some time. Because you're talking in the end about buying down east trailers that get hauled by tractors with gravel. When you actually look at the handbook that tells you how to make trails out through here, pretty significant. It's like establishing a roadway, a whole nother road. A lot harder than snowmobile trails.
But I think that this is a good starting point.
It is.
I wouldn't
That's what
want
it is,
to,
it's starting.
yeah, I wouldn't want to say, oh, let's figure it out for every section of town and then be going, oh my God, what have we done when it goes to hell in a handbasket? So we don't want to have to pull it back. We can start small and then increase it from there.
I think the emphasis is, because we have a Trails Committee now, outside of
Yes,
Right.
outside of us,
Yeah.
who are doing all the work on the 40+,
yeah.
we can probably make this work. I mean, you know, you're not gonna do it with the 12 people that show up at our meeting.
Oh, yeah.
It's strength in numbers and in diverse interests. So it's not just snowmobiles, it's the fat bikes, it's the hikers, it's the walkers, it's the snowshoers. It's hoping that all those people together will want to see these trails, not just for ATV use,
Yeah.
basically the key word here is multi-use.
Yes.
Every trail that we go on practically is multi-use.
Yes.
That's where the strength is gonna come from, I believe, is multi.
The only way they can get it done.
And I would also suggest that if there are any residents, we'll say this to the camera for anyone who's out there listening later. If there are any residents from North Monmouth, South Monmouth, East Monmouth that feel in any way slighted because they were left out, then I would suggest you come to a meeting, get your name on a volunteer list so that you can pitch in and we will consider how we can adapt to your needs.
First job would be landowner relations.
Hang on.
So do we need anything else for this?
Got to vote.
On the policy.
Oh,
I make a motion, we approve the policy as amended.
I'll second that.
so there's a motion by Ken, second by Chris to approve the ATV, UTV access route policy as amended. All those in favor?
And I also make a motion, my motion's still on the table.
Oh, yes.
For getting the town manager to write a letter in support of whatever proposal the ATV club wants to come up with for DOT and help them write that application process. Need a second?
Oh, I'll second that. Thought you were just giving him instructions.
You're approving something that you haven't seen? Is that what you're saying?
No, I think I was.
Gives him a permission to, you know.
This is only one road.
Yeah.
It's,
What
Main
we're
Street.
talking about is
Yes.
excluding one road out of that whole policy.
Yeah.
Until this letter goes through to get approved from DOT.
Right.
This is not the end of the world here.
And the policy defines it as from the town office to the apple, to the fruit stand.
Fruit stand, yeah.
So Chris made a motion. Chris seconded it to have the town manager write a letter to whoever it is.
Accompany.
Accompany the ATV request.
All those in favor? Who's the letter going to?
DOT.
To DOT.
Ooh, that was a close one.
Then, all set, you're all set.
Yes.
Okay, so on to an order authorizing the lease for the LED lighting.
So this is really an administrative thing. You folks have already approved that lease arrangement to replace all the lights in the town. But I need an order to accompany the lease contract for the company. So there's an order here. I just need you, it was in your packet. It's a bunch of legal stuff. Yeah.
I'm a lawyer, look at it. I have my legal counsel.
You want money for this?
$2.75 an hour, right?
It's $3.25.
$3.25. $3.10.
So, need a motion.
Yes.
I make a motion to authorize, to authorize the order for the lease of the LED lighting project.
Second. So the motion by Chris, second by Joe, to approve the order authorizing the lease for the LED lighting project. All those in favor? Thank you.
Us to sign that. now.
No, it doesn't. It allows me to do it. I need a vote on record. Yeah.
Next is to consider approving a voting facilities grant application.
So I've written the grant. What I need from you folks is the project certification, basically saying that you as the municipal officers approve of me applying on the town's behalf. There is signatures here for you. This is for the Wilson Pond boat launch. They did a site visit on May 14th that they will accept as the pre-application. We're basically asking for $12,500, which is a 50% match of the amount of money to purchase the piece of land that's currently being used for parking over there. The owner is interested in selling it to us so that the current use can be kept. He's selling the remainder of his parcel, but if you are okay with this, I will sign a purchase and sale agreement that contends that we will buy it if the grant is approved by the state.
Do we have to sign
Yes.
this? We do. Okay, because Joe signed it. Oh. So, need a motion.
I make a motion that we approve the boating facilities grant application.
Okay. So the motion by Chris, second by Mark. To
Yes.
approve the voting facilities grant application. All those in favor? Thank you.
You can just keep signing that one if you want.
Okay.
Keep signing this.
Good luck. Yeah. Next is to consider a property tax abatement for map 28 lot 70.
This was a shed that was put on after April 1st. And he notified Donna that she had picked it up. So it shouldn't have been taxed this year. It'll be taxed next year. The abatement is for like $34.77.
We approve the abatement.
Second that.
So there's a motion by Joe, second by Chris, to approve the abatement to Keith McFerrin for the $34 shed, $34.77. All those in favor? Thank you. Next is to fiscal year 24-25 warrant 20.
Baker Electric, 1,729, power to one of the trailers at the transfer station. Blue Rock Earthworks, materials transport, $2,772. EcoMaine, $1,666. Election systems, $3,562. That's for the ballot machines for the election. Grimmel Industries, $5,676 demo. For station. Jensen Baird, the town attorney, 2,119. A lot of this has to do with an ongoing dispute with a person. That their septic system is not in compliance. K and B,
How much was that?
$2,119. There's various things in there, but a chunk of it is for that code action.
That's set for hearing in June, I think. Set for hearing in June, I believe.
Yeah, she requested a continuance. We think it's gonna be all set. We think that she's just about there at this point. K and B Builders, $6,000 for the capital, for Kempston Hall repairs. ART appraisal, the revaluation, $33,192. Maine Municipal Association unemployment insurance, $1,060. Maine Technology Group telephone and IT services, $3,000. Minuteman Security Technologies, $1,221 for the fire service monitoring. North Coast Services, 2,420 large items for recycling, transfer station stuff. Mard and Sons fuel pump replacement at Public Works, 1,818. State of Maine Bureau of Motor Vehicles, 14,262. 30 Hardware, 1,040. That was for the roller for the gravel roads that Tony was talking about earlier. Winthrop, 2,479, half of the sweeper payments for a grand total of $94,687.51.
I make a motion, we authorize warrant number 20 for fiscal year 24-25.
Second that.
Motion by Ken, second by Chris to authorize warrant number 20 for fiscal year 24-25. All those in favor? I'm gonna abstain from this vote.
Smart man.
Being yourself. I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?